Alrighty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 days has gone in the challenge. We started the New Me challenge in 100 days, and this is half time. This is a beautiful time. This is a beautiful moment for me, and I am so grateful. I'm super stoked. I'm excited about the things that are happening even in this challenge. And now we want to take it even a step further, even as we continue on our series and our live sessions, that I believe it has been impactful. It has been a blessing to many people out there, both those that are in the challenge and those that are outside the challenge. I say welcome on board, and tonight we're taking it a step further. As a bit of recap, in the series on the goal getting blueprint, we started with clarity, which is for us to get a clear picture of what we are heading at, the goal that we are setting. Then we moved on to comprehension. That is the second C, which is understanding the goal, the blessings that come with the goal, and the burdens that come with the goal. Then we moved on to the third C, which is capacity. Capacity helps us to understand what is the implication. What exactly do we need to do? What is it going to require of us? How much effort, energy is required? Which of them are within our control, or which of them are the ones that we need to outsource to build enough muscle to be able to deal with the goals that we need to achieve in front of us. Then last session, we dealt with commitment, because once you get your plans in place, the next thing you need to do as you hit the ground running is to commit to the process. You can't put your hands on the plow and look back. You need to have that staying power that takes you all the way till the end. And in the course of making this happen, there will be things that will happen in your life that will bring some setbacks, that will bring some drag, that will bring some fatigue, that will bring some strain, that will bring some stress, because you are doing something that you're not used to. And all those kind of things may want to discourage you, may want to get you off track, may want to get you to quit, may want to get you to just rethink what you're doing and ask yourself, am I really in the right place? Should I really continue or not? And that is why we move on to the fifth C. The fifth C tonight, we're talking about courage. I want you to put it in the comment section. Welcome, everybody. Courage. That is what we're dealing with tonight. Courage is very important on this journey, in any journey in our lives, because however we want to look at it, it is not the best thing in the world to face elements of discouragement. But it happens. But we need to summon that strength from within, and in some cases from without, for us to pack ourselves together and move forward. But before we unpack the journey into courage, I want us to lay a bit of foundation. All right? Let's talk about ourselves. There are three key areas that we need to look at in our members if we want to achieve our goal. First is what I call the head. And when I say head, I'm not particularly referring to this. I'm referring to the faculty that is responsible for our natural senses, the head. When you say think with your head, that's what I mean. The next member is the heart. And of course, when I'm saying the heart, I'm not referring to that thing, that organ that is pumping blood. I'm referring to your internal senses. Just like the head takes charge of your external senses, your sense of sight, your sense of smell, your sense of savor, your sense of skin, your sense of hearing, of sound. You also have the heart that takes care of your insight, your inspiration, your intuition, your instinct, and of course your intellect, your inspiration. Have I mentioned inspiration? Inspiration, insight, instinct, instruction, and of course intuition. All that happens in the heart member of yourself. That is the internal you, your supernatural senses. That is your heart. Your natural senses, that is your head. And the third member that I want to focus on is your hand. And when I'm talking about the hand, I am not referring to this in particular. I'm referring to every part of your body that works the action that goes about the activities that deliver on your dreams. So let me recap. You've got the head, you've got the heart, and you've got the hands. Now, these three members of your body, they need to be in constant alignment for you to move forward. Follow me. I'm going to courage, but I need to let you understand how your body works, how your members work, so that whenever you face any challenge, you can immediately troubleshoot to know who exactly is requiring some help. Your head takes care of your external senses. Your heart takes care of your internal senses. Your hand takes care of your bodily senses. Do you get that? Now, your head, your heart, and your hand, they need to be in alignment for there to be performance in direction of your dreams. Now, here's what I mean. When you set goals, and for instance, you say, I want to make $1 billion in the next 24 hours, that is your head talking, because you are working with your conscious senses, you are working with your natural senses. I want to make $1 billion in the next 24 hours. You are talking with your head. Now, your heart, when your heart listens to what your head is saying, your heart may want to disagree. There is that part of you that rationalizes the things that you set as a target and asks you, doesn't know what he's talking about. In 24 hours, you want to make $1 billion. It is not possible. Now, that is the heart disagreeing. And until the head is in alignment with the heart, the hands cannot go to work. I hope someone is catching me this evening. Until the head is in alignment with the heart, the hand cannot go to work. The hand are the activities, the things that you do, the feet that take you to work, the hands that make the call, the mouth that does the talking. Everything is categorized under the hand. Okay? So whenever you set goals, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't set goals that are bigger than you, because that is what we have been pitching since the beginning of the challenge. But what we are saying is that there should be alignment. And that is where mental permission comes to play. All right. Now, mental permission is when the heart gives permission to the head to align that, okay, both of us agree that we should pursue this goal. It is then that the mind can now give instructions to the body to go look out for opportunities or to carry out activities that will make those dreams happen. I hope you're following me closely. I just want to lay that foundation because that is very important for us to understanding. Whenever we're having issues at all, it will always be easier for us to know wherever the issues are coming from. In the previous sessions that we've had, I have made it clear that oftentimes we've spent a good chunk of our lives depending on our natural senses, right? We've learned to trust what our eyes see, we've learned to trust what our ears hear, and so on and so forth. And we're now getting into a new school of thought that is asking us not to depend completely on our natural senses. I'm not saying you should ditch them, but I'm just saying you don't depend completely on them, but you should understand that there is an untapped resource in your heart, which is your gut feeling. It is when you hear things like hunch, when you hear things like you go with your heart, go with your guts. All those are in the members of the invisible. That is your supernatural sense. When they say you're talking with your head, that means you're letting this thing get to your head. That means you're just focusing on your natural senses. But when you're talking about your heart, you're talking about a deeper seat, which is where you unlock your subconscious and your unconscious mind. Now, hear me. When you set goals, you need to carry all those members along because it is until those members agree before the mind can give instructions that, okay, do this, and you can now have the drive to pursue the things that you want to pursue. All right. I hope I've been able to clear the path on how the members of our body works. Head, heart, and hand must be in alignment. First, write that down. Thank you very much, moderator. The second thing that I also want to mention is that our capacities and our capabilities differ. We know that. But the part that we may be finding interesting tonight is that they actually differ according to our choices, not according to the way we find ourselves. Hear me out. For those of us that are Christians or for those of us that subscribe to the Bible, there is a story about the parable of the talents, where a master was going out on a journey and he gave resources in three different categories. And the story explained that these resources were distributed according to the capacities of the servant, right? Now, all my life, for a very long time, I have believed in the thought, follow me closely. I have believed in the thought that the capacities of these servants were fixed by God. That was, I don't know about you, but that was the mindset that I had. That really and truly, everybody in the world, God has just made some people to be capacity of 5. God has made some people to be capacity of 2. And God has made some people to be capacity of 1. But by the time I went back and checked thoroughly, I got to realize that that capacity was not placed in them by God, but that capacity was placed in them by them. Wow. That capacity was placed in them, by their choices. That means when every one of us came into this world, the truth of the matter is all of us came with a potential to be anything that we choose to be. Now, this might sound strange and a little heavy for some of us to comprehend tonight, but that is the truth. That our capacity, the differences in our capacity, is not a function of God's choice. It's actually a function of our choice, our nature, our nurture, our neighborhood. All that has framed us to be who we are today is what has actually amounted to the capacity and the capabilities that we carry, and not particularly the imposition that is on us. That means if we want to have a capacity of 5, we actually can. If we want to have a capacity of 2, we actually can. And if we want to have a capacity of 1, we actually can. Now, I know this might be a bit too heavy for some of us to process right now, but I want you to follow me closely. Whatever capacity you settle to, or whatever capacity you settle with, it is that same capacity that you can be dealt with. That is where I'm going to tonight. Follow me. We're still dealing with courage, and we're going to be unpacking it in a bit, but I want to peel out some layers that will help us understand this concept of courage very well. Capacity for every one of us differ, not according to God's choices, but according to our choices. I want you to also note that down. Our capacities differ according to our choices, based on the way we are made in our genetic code, our DNA, and all that, the nurture that we've received, and the neighborhood that groomed us, that brought us up to date to where we are, is completely based on our choices. Some of them we could control, some of them we couldn't. But everything that we are is the function of the potential that we chose to exploit. Now, I'm going to borrow another reference from scripture to buttress this point. Now, there's a place in scripture that referred to God, and it said, unto him, that is God, who is able to do exceedingly abundantly, far more than we can ask or imagine. Now, that is unto God. That is the attribute that is given unto God. He can do anything, He can do everything. Now, what He does for us is not particularly according to the capacity that He imposed on us. The part of that scripture that completes that scripture says, according to the power that is at work within us, which means according to how much we can accept. And I think I've been able to make, I've made an illustration of that scripture before. When I gave, let me see if I can find a vessel here. Bear with me, this is a flask, but let's just imagine that this flask is a reservoir tank, right? It's a reservoir tank and it's massive. It's infinite. Let's assume that is what it is. If you take a pipe of this thickness and connect it to this reservoir tank, the amount of volume that you can get out of this reservoir tank is a function of the thickness of this pipe. Does that make sense? And if you take a bigger pipe, what could be a representation of a bigger pipe now? Let me say, assume this is a pipe, right? If you take a pipe this thick and you connect it to the same infinite source, the amount of volume that can flow through this pipe is a function of the capacity of this pipe. I hope you get the point I'm trying to make, which means that the capacity that we're talking about here is not so much particularly about what has been imposed on us, ki sera, this is destiny, what will be, and we can't do anything about it. No, it is actually a function of how big we have built our capacity over time. Now, why is capacity important? I thought we have dealt with capacity a couple of sessions ago. Yes, we have, but I want to make you understand the role that capacity plays in courage, which we are dealing with tonight, which is what I want to do in this session. Now that we've gotten that part out of the way, we've gotten the place of the alignment, and we've also gotten the place of the diversity or the differential in the capacity that each and every one of us have. Now, let's dive in. Discouragement as a subject is inevitable. Everybody gets discouraged. From the weakest of us to the strongest of us, everybody gets discouraged. Discouragement is inevitable. Even though you've watched how strong is your why, you've watched the session 100 times and you've summoned the strength and you've beefed up the strength of your why, and your why is super strong, there will always be that time where you will be discouraged. And tonight, I'm going to be borrowing a bit of biblical references. I'll go again to the Bible. There's a story of a very strong prophet, very strong, powerful prophet. He knew his onions. He was he was a bad guy. He was so bad that he confronted other prophets, demonic prophets, and he roasted all of them. Now, this is someone that did something that was so amazing, so strong, just one moment. And guess what? The next moment, when he heard about the threats of the queen to take his life, he became discouraged. He fled for his life. So much that he was asking God for suicide, that God should just take his life. Now, that's the part I just want to take from that illustration to buttress the point that Whenever you find yourself discouraged, never think that something strange is happening to you. I hope I've been able to liberate someone tonight with that statement. Whenever you feel discouraged, never for once think that maybe you are weak, or maybe you are not doing enough, or maybe it's your fault, or something strange is happening to you. Discouragement is inevitable. Moderator, put that down. Discouragement is inevitable. It happens to all of us, from the strongest of us to the weakest of us. Now, if discouragement is inevitable, why do we need it in our lives? Or how do we deal with discouragement in our lives? We need courage. That is what we need. And we need a huge dose of courage everywhere we go. But how can we summon courage if we don't first understand the things that trigger courage amongst us? A couple of days ago, I shared in the group, in the WhatsApp group, that we're going to be talking about courage, right? And I mentioned the fact that I want everybody to share their experiences. We're getting into half year. Today is day 50. And we're saying, okay, in the course of time, people would have experienced one discouragement or the other. What is your experience? And the number one trigger, or the one that came out most often in people's contribution, is a second guessing of the value of this thing. Is it worth it? And it is a very valid one. When you begin to ask yourself, I've heard about all that I need to do. I've heard about all the sacrifices I need to give. I've heard about all the effort I need to put into this thing. And I know that it is quite demanding. And I know that I need to stretch. I need to go from the person that I am into a new person that I can achieve my goals and all that. I know everything. But the big question is it worth it? Many of us are in the room right now. You're watching me and you're asking me, Coach, is it worth it? I will answer that question in a bit. But I just want to let you know that I acknowledge that you've mentioned this as one of the triggers. And indeed, it is a valid trigger, because it helps you to evaluate all your effort, that all these things that I'm doing, hope I'm not doing it in vain. All these things that I'm doing, I hope there is some rainbow at the some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I hope there's some light at the end of the tunnel. I hope it's going to be worth it. These are valid questions. That is a trigger for discouragement. Another trigger number 2, is past experiences, especially when they are laden with repeated failure or setbacks. For instance, someone also mentioned in the group about the trauma of experiencing things, maybe childhood experiences. You've done things before and everything you do just doesn't work. You start something, you don't finish it. You start something halfway, you stop it. You start it with so much zeal, and somewhere along the line, the passion just fizzles out. Or even some things you put in all your 110 and it still doesn't work out. And you're like, okay, there we go again. This guy is selling us a challenge. Are we going to, is this going to be any different from all the past failures? I've come to tell you today that I hear you. And I'm going to be responding to that in a bit. Number 2 setback, or number 2 discouragement trigger, is repeated failure or setbacks, especially if you have a history of failed attempts at doing something. There's a way your mind tells you. Now, this is your heart talking to your head saying, guy, you did this thing last year. It didn't work. You did it 2 years ago. It didn't work. You did it 5 years ago. It didn't work. So what tells you that it's going to work this time around? That is also a valid trigger. Number 3, doubts on expectations. And this comes through different ways. There are times where your expectations are so high compared to the results that you are getting. And you're looking at what you're expecting. For instance, for the first 30 days, when you started filling the workbook, you putting this is my lifestyle vision for the first 30 days, this is my money vision for the first 30 days. Now 30 days has passed, and you're asking yourself, this is day 40 into my accountability journal. Have I met those expectations? The fact that you've not met those expectations alone begins to create some elements of doubt in you. You begin to doubt the process. Is this for real, or is it just another exercise in or exercise in futility? That is a discouragement trigger. Another discouragement trigger is lack of progress, especially on the outward appearance. If it seems as if every day is looking the same, and I can't see that day that really moves the needle or bumps up the charts to say, oh, this is it. That could also be a discouragement trigger where you just think that every day is same old, same old. What I copied in the last page yesterday is what I copied again in this page, is what I copied 10 days ago, and I'm copying the same thing. My list of disempowering lifestyle is not reducing. My list of empowering lifestyle is not increasing. Everything is just, in fact, I'm discouraged. Lack of progress could be a trigger. Another trigger could be unhealthy competition. Some of us, we have left ourselves and we have now benchmarked our success or our progress against other people or against other elements that are outside our control. And that makes us to ask ourselves, how do we measure progress? When you very well know that your capacity is different from the capacity of the person that you're comparing yourself to. You have already set yourself for elements of frustration because your output will never be the same. So, unhealthy competition could also be a trigger in discouragement. Follow me closely. I'm coming to the solutions in a bit, but I just want to list out all the different things that trigger discouragement in our lives. Another one is lack of support. For some of us, we have lived our lives doing things solo. We just love our company. We've never been the type that is used to collaborating with people. Anything you want to do, you do it by yourself. Lack of support. Even you're in a group, you don't interact in the group. You're in a group, even your accountability partner is calling you, but you're not responding. It's just like me, myself, and I. And you're trying to carry the burden of this world on your shoulders by yourself. And you're not tapping into the support systems around you. If you bear this weight by yourself and you don't open your mouth to ask for help when you need to, it could trigger discouragement. I'm sure by now, some of us have been finding the ones that relate to you. If you find anyone that relates to you, just says just type it in the comment that this relates to me. All right. I have like three more to go in the triggers of discouragement. The next one is overwhelm. Many people are on these boats. Overwhelm, burnout, and exhaustion. In fact, most of the contributions that I got in the last couple of days were talking about the fact that this thing was giving them serious headaches, which is valid. Headaches, pains, stress, burnout, overwhelm, fatigue, exhaustion, and all that. These are discouragement triggers because the body is not used to the new lifestyle that you are introducing it to. So, by way of reaction, it is revolting by telling you that, hey, you are stressing me beyond my regular stressing limit. You are taking me beyond my elastic limit. It is time for me to snap. It is time for me to react. And the reactions that you get come by way of illness, come by way of fatigue, come by way of exhaustion, come by way of headaches and all that. It clearly tells you that something is shifting. But the issue is, are you seeing it as an encouragement trigger or a discouragement trigger? Another trigger that I want to talk about is fear. Fear is the silent trigger in the room. Many people live in denial. They don't want to believe that is what it is. But the truth of the matter is, it is what it is. Fear. Fear is a very strong trigger. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, even fear of success. All kinds of fear creeps into our minds when we go to bed at night, when we are filling in the workbook, and you know the result of what you got today. Now you're trying to set aspirations for tomorrow, and that thing is holding you back. That reticular activating system is telling you that, guy, why are you wasting your time? You know the answer to this thing. You know what will happen by the time tomorrow is done. Even all your power moves doesn't seem to have much power. Your neural pathways doesn't seem to have anything novel about it. Your everything is just somehow, somewhere, and you fear that you will go through 100 days and it might just be a waste of time. Fear, fear, fear. It is a valid discouragement trigger. Fear and anxiety. I want to talk about the last one and I'll move on to the solutions quickly. Distraction. Distraction is a serious failure trigger. Distractions. We get started with something, and before we know what's happening, life happens. This gets into the way, that gets into the way, and before we know what's happening, we get so encumbered with all kinds of things, and we completely lose sight of what are we even doing in the first place. And the fact that everything now becomes hazy and is not as clear as it used to be when you started out, the distraction clouds everything, and all you see around you is discouragement. Distraction, life, the reality of life, the demands at work, the demands at home, the demands of the business, targets that you need to meet, pressure, bills that need to be paid, all kinds of things. You just take your eyes off the mark. It is a valid trigger. And we're going to be dealing with them tonight. Now that I've listed all those triggers, I've listed the fact that is it worth it. I've listed the fact that you face all kind of a history of repeated failure and setbacks. You've talked about doubts from the expectations. You've talked about lack of progress where everything just seems to be plateau. You talked about unhealthy competition. You talked about lack of support. You've talked about overwhelm, burnout, exhaustions, headaches, migraines, all that. You've talked about fear and anxiety, and you've also talked about distractions. Now let's begin to dig into it. In view of all these triggers, we know them, you know them, I know them. The question we ask ourselves is, do we quit or do we win? We've got two options, quit or win. Quitting is easy. In fact, that is the strong recommendation coming from your members. All of them are they've sat down, they've had a parliament meeting, and they're now sending you their report to say, Oga, quit. We don't understand this thing that you are teaching us. We don't understand this new thing you are subjecting us to. We don't understand this challenge. Please, please, please quit. And the pressure is strong, coming to you, asking you to quit. Meanwhile, it's a divided house. You also have another part of the parliament that they filed their report. They are sending it to you to say, win, win, win. Oga, we've come this far. We must win. We must win because we know what we are going to be when we win. We know the new me. We know what is going to come for us. We know the new success grounds that we're going to conquer. We must win. Now you've got that war waging in your mind, saying, do I quit or do I win? What do I do? You are at halftime. You are in the locker room and you're asking yourself, do I go back to that field or do I go home? Do I go back to the field to give it another push or do I go home? But before you answer any of those questions, the first thing you should ask yourself is, what are the consequences? Quitting is easy. Winning is tough. Write that down. Quitting is easy. Winning is tough. Do you want to follow the easy road or do you want to continue on the tough road? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves. Now, let's talk about competence levels because we started off talking about our members, the head, the heart, and the hands. Another thing we must understand is everything that makes up our framework, whether it's our character, our competence, or our capacity, they are the things that determine how much we can achieve and how far we can get there. For competence, do you know that there are four levels of competence? There are four levels of competence of the things you know. The first level of competence is unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence. At this level of competence, you are speaking to that person who doesn't know that he doesn't know. That means that person is a stark ignoramus. You don't know Jack. That is the lowest level. Unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't even know. The second level of competence is what we call conscious incompetence. Now, this is the level where you are conscious of what you don't know. That means you know that you don't know. You are coming to that stage where it's like, oh, wow. So there is this concept called the new me that I need to pursue that I didn't know all my life. I thought all my life I'm just supposed to take things easy and good things just come to people that wait and all will just be nice and dandy. Now I realize that I need to work hard to become a better person. You are at that level too, where you are experiencing a conscious incompetence. Level three is the level when you now upgrade to conscious competence. That means you're at that level where you know that you know. You know that you know. That means you are aware that you have amassed this knowledge. For most of us that have gotten to the halftime, this is where we are. We are at that stage where we know that we know. We know how to write our dreams. We know how to set our targets the day before. We know how to pursue our dreams. We know clarity. We know comprehension. We know capacity. We know commitment. We know that we need to work ourselves. We know that we need to be full of courage. That is conscious competence. Then level four is what you call unconscious competence. That means you've even forgotten that you know because the thing has now become second nature to you. I will use driving as an illustration. For the person that has not seen a car before, that has not driven a car before, that doesn't know jack about cars, that all the person knows is how to trek or how to ride a bicycle, that person is at unconscious incompetence. Now, when the person gets introduced to a car, and he sits in the passenger side and he sees how a car works, that person is at that stage of conscious incompetence. At least that person gets to know that, oh, I know that I don't know how to drive. That is conscious incompetence. I know that driving is a skill, but I don't know how to drive. You've come to that consciousness. Now, level three is when you are now learning how to drive and you're in front of, you're behind the wheels, looking into the dashboard, looking at the gear. Before you push a pedal, you're checking it, you're checking all your mirrors, and you're being conscious of every move you're making. You're the type that when you want to turn your steering wheel, you're turning it with two hands like this and looking everywhere. At that stage, you are at your conscious competence because now you are being mindful of the things that you know. Level four is that level where you're using one hand on the steering and one hand is doing your makeup. The visor is down. You're looking at your mirror. You're doing makeup. One hand on the steering and the shoulder is holding the phone, and you can almost do some bit of distracted driving because You know how to drive so much that you are even unconscious of it. That is when you get to unconscious competence. Now, why am I talking about competence level? It helps us to tackle the concept of courage versus discouragement. Whenever we face any of the triggers that I've mentioned, whether it's overwhelm, burnout, fear, or any of all those things, we begin to look into ourselves and ask the question, what is my competence level? I hope you guys are following me. You ask yourself, what is my competence level? Then you begin to find some answers. Oh, this is why I am going through this. This is why this is happening to me. This is why this is a little stressful. This is why this is a little easy. This is why you begin to find answers and you begin to understand yourself even better. And now that you are conscious of the fact that there is the head part of you, and there is the heart part of you, and there is the hand part of you, you begin to understand, are these members even in alignment at all? You are now getting to that stage where you are being mindful of the alignment within your members, which is your head, your hands, and you're also being conscious or mindful of your character, your competence, and your capacity as they build together this framework that you have called the new me. Having that at the back of our minds, now let's deal with the courage boosters as we begin to wrap up. I hope you guys are following me today, and I hope it's not too much for you guys to chew tonight. Even if it takes watching it again and again, I'm sure you will eventually get it. All right? But you must first understand what is going on inside of you before you can deal with what is going on outside of you. Are we good? Okay. Now let's talk about courage boosters. For everything that we've listed as discouragement trigger, I want to give us a corresponding courage booster. Does that make sense? So when we talk about the fact that we are asking the question, is it worth it? Which is the courage trigger. Now, the courage booster for that should be, how do you strengthen your why? I mentioned earlier in the evening that you should go back and watch that video. How strong is your why? I think that's our very first session. It helps you to understand, why are you doing this in the first place? And in that video, I mentioned the fact that this is not the first goal setting program that you are embarking on. True or false? This is not the first goal setting program you're embarking on. But when you begin to ask yourself, why did other goal setting programs fail? This is the reason. They didn't take you through how to have a staying power in the course of your journey. So you need to go back and strengthen your why. For many of us, you need to ask yourself the deep questions. Have you actually finished your assignment 7 levels deep? How strong is your why? Because until you understand fully why you are in this challenge, you may not have the requisite justification to answer that question, is it worth it? I hope I just answered someone's question. For those of you that are asking and saying you go through so much stress that it makes you question yourself again whenever you wake up in the morning, is it worth it? This is where the answer lies. The strength of your why is the strength of the worth that you're asking about. If the challenge or the target that you have set for yourself is worth the sacrifice, it is a question only you can answer. If you have said to yourself that in 100 days, this is what you want to become, then you need to be clear that, are you ready to give what it takes to become what it needs to become? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I never promised ease. I said it's going to be free, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you some pain. It's going to cost you some stress. It's going to cost you some stretching. It's going to cost you some discomfort. It's going to cost you some inconvenience. It is because I've been there. But guess what? That is how fire processes gold. That is how wine is pressed from crushed grapes. That is how wheat is beaten from the chaff. Everything comes through some process, guys. And process is never easy, is never sexy, is never comfortable. But the answer to that question, is it worth it, is in your hands, is in your 7 levels deep, is in the strength of your why. So the first thing that you need to do is to go and strengthen your why. Because the strength of your why is the strength of the worth to answer that question. Number 2, repeated failures and setbacks. How do you deal with that? It is purely a question of perspective. Rather than having a choking mindset that focuses on history, what you need to have is a growth mindset. Write that down. You need a growth mindset. And what does the growth mindset help you to do? It helps you to see blessings and lessons even in all situations. It helps you to go through the blessings and the burdens of your success. Because whether you like it or not, you're going to face failures. And the journey to success is filled with paving stones of failure. The light bulb that we enjoy today, the journey to light bulb was filled with paving stones of failure. So you need a growth mindset to conquer the questions of what you consider failure. There is nothing called failure in the sense. Failure is actually a redirection telling you that this is not the road to success. For every attempt that does not give you the success that you want, just see that, okay, I have learned one way that does not lead to success. You try again. But most of us have been raised to be scared of failure. You need to go back and watch the video, Failure Code. Most of us have been raised to be scared of failure because the pressure that has been mounted on us has been success or nothing. We weren't taught how to deal with mistakes. We weren't taught to understand that mistakes are part of life. So whenever we encounter or experience any failure, it sets us so far back that we think that we have completely failed woefully in life and we should just go and quit. No. We need to have a growth mindset that helps you to reprocess your perspective on what you call failure. I've said it many times in the group. It is working. But first, it needs to work on you before it works for you. We all know the story of the bamboo tree. You plant it in the ground, it stays in the ground for so long, and it doesn't even shoot, and it looks as if it's failure. And all of a sudden, within months, the thing grows how many feet tall? Failure is a concept that needs to be well understood with a growth mindset. I hope someone is following me tonight. So whenever you experience setbacks or failure, what you need is the growth mindset. The growth mindset gives you the right attitude that does not dampen your emotions. Because it's a growth mindset that makes you understand that this is part of life. This is part of life. I am learning every day. I am growing every day. Listen to the affirmations. And I want to believe you guys are listening to the affirmations that I shared every morning. All these nuggets are embedded in these affirmations. You need to listen to them again and again. If possible, listen to them in the morning, listen to them at night before you go to bed, because they continue to help you to understand and frame things in the right way. So, failure and setbacks are not meant to put you down, they are actually meant to set you up. Let's go to the third one: doubts on expectations. When you're asking yourself, am I sure that if I put in all this, I mean, I read all those things in the WhatsApp group. I'm like, am I sure that if I put in all these efforts at the end of the day, oh, I hope I'm even going to get the results? By the time you get to that stage where you begin to doubt, which is okay, what you need to give yourself is the mental permission to accept the success. Because what is actually happening at that point in time is a disconnection or a disalignment between your head and your heart. Whenever you experience doubt about your goals, whenever you experience doubt about your target, check it. There is a disconnection or a disalignment between your head and your heart. That is why I started this section with that statement, that your head and your heart needs to align. Your external senses and your internal senses, they need to be in alignment for the rest of your body to move. Because if they're not in alignment, nobody will be able to give the body the instructions. So whenever you wake up in the morning feeling demotivated, feeling demoralized, that is what is happening. Is somebody catching something tonight? So whenever you find yourself in a situation where all of a sudden it's as if you lost all your motivation, all of a sudden it's as if all those things that used to give me that ginger, everything just flew out of the door, and you're looking for courage, you're looking for vibe, you're looking for motivation, and it seems as if it's not there. Just check that alignment. Who is in charge? Is it your head or is it your heart? Or are they even in alignment? That is where the issue is. So you need that mental permission, and it needs to be according to your size. Everybody's mental permission is different. I've given the analogy of the frying pan and the fish before. It's the same thing we're talking about. For you, your frying pan might be this big. For someone else, your frying pan might be this big. But at the end of the day, it's down to your choice. Don't do beyond what you have the mental permission for, because it is according to the permission that you release that you can get. And I think I gave an illustration some sessions ago. I don't know if it was in this group or maybe another client. And I said, do you know that it is the same energy that it takes you to think of how to pay your rent now, your accommodation expense now? It is the same energy that it actually takes to pay for the accommodation rent that is double what you are paying right now. Do you know? We get to think that it requires superior energy. No, it is the same energy. What you actually need is mental permission. For instance, if you're in a place, those in the US, those in Canada, you're in the room, you can tell. If you're in a place where your monthly rent is $2,000 and you want to move to a place where your monthly rent is $4,000, do you know that it takes the same energy, the same mental permission that you have given yourself to be able to pay $2,000 monthly? It is the same mental permission that you actually need to be able to pay $4,000. And I'll tell you why. Because there are people that their mental permission has allowed them to pay $1,000 rent. True or false? And there are some people that their mental permission afforded them the ability to pay $500, $800 rent. True or false? We all have our capacities according to our choices. Let me bring it home to Nigeria. There are some places where your rent is 500,000 naira. There are places where your rent is 1.5 million naira. There are places where your rent is 5 million naira. There are places where your rent is 10 million naira. Everybody that is paying rent at different scales is paying according to the same energy, the same mental permission that they gave themselves. The moment your mind has given itself permission, the moment your head aligns with your heart, the hands will go to work to find what is due your size. I'll explain. Someone is saying, according to your choice, according to your finance. Finance is external. Finance is the tactical side of things. There is actually something that creates that finance. Let me explain it properly. Your financial level right now is a function of your permission, of your mental capacity, your mental permission. All right? The finances that you command today is a function of the mental permission that you have. And that is the reason why there are some amount of money that to you is normal, but to some people is alarming. True or false? And there are some amount of money that to you is alarming, but to some people is normal. True or false? It is a function of the mind. Money, like we talked about last week, is abstract. It is your it is your mental capacity when your head aligns with your heart that now goes to speak to your hands. And when I'm talking about hands, I don't know if we'll have time to talk about this session in some other day. Your hand is not this hand we're talking about. It's talking about all your members, your mindset, your skill set, your soul set, your hand, your heart set, every part of all your set. There are seven of them that begins to talk about your cognitive abilities, your skills, the problem solving abilities, the people that you have in your networks, the amount of money that you can command, all those things that eventually result in what you call finances is actually triggered by mental permission. That is why you find yourself in a situation where no matter how much you work, you realize that you can't make beyond some amount. How many of us have been in that kind of situation? You find that if you add your salary, your passive income, your investment, your crypto, your this, by the time you add it together, no matter how much you work, you find out that you can't get past a particular ceiling until you have a paradigm shift in your mind. You will continue to hit that ceiling. Everybody has a ceiling. It is your mental faculty that can push that ceiling. It doesn't mean you're not working hard. It doesn't mean you're not doing what you're doing. What makes the janitor a janitor? What makes a manager a manager? What makes a supervisor a supervisor? What makes an executive director an executive director? What makes a CEO a CEO? What makes a chairman a chairman? What makes an investor an investor? What makes all those things are are functions of their mental capacities, permission that they allow themselves. And it starts with the way you are raising your children. What your children consider normal is a function how much that they can command when they grow up. If your children go back and watch failure codes, if your children are being raised to see scarcity mindset as a norm, it will affect the amount that they can command when they begin to work. So this is the part where you begin to switch from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. Because we have lived so much in our head to think that every finances that we make is made by our head. The eyes that see, the ears that hear, the tongue that tastes, the body that, the skin that feels, the nose that smell. If we continue to live our lives according to our natural senses, we are continuing to put ourselves under the limit of what those natural senses can achieve. But when we begin to dig deeper and explore our supernatural senses, we begin to see untapped resources. I just talked about competence level a few minutes ago. Do you know that so many of us have competence levels on different things in our lives? That's the truth. In driving, you might be at level 4, unconscious incompetence. But in learning how to play a musical instrument, you might be at level zero. For someone in tech, you're at level four. But in cooking, you're at level two. We all have different competence levels in our lives. And the measure of the potentials that we can achieve in our life is a function of our competence levels. Because there will always be something that is new to you. That's why I said whether you're a 5 capacity, 2 capacity, 1 capacity, those capacities are not imposed on you by God. They are actually a function of your choices in life. Am I making sense? Let's move forward. Exactly, just like you said, where someone else's capacity ends is where someone's capacity starts. We are on a continuous flux. So you should ask yourself, what is the mental permission that I'm giving myself according to my size? Let's move forward. Now, another one is lack of progress. For those that are experiencing lack of progress, you need to ask yourself, how do I analyze my progress by working with mentors? And this is where mentorship is very important. Now, mentors, I think I've explained it before. I don't know if it's on this platform. Mentors are simply people that have gone that road before. If you want to write a book, talk to an author. If you want to be a coach or if you want to be a trainer, talk to an existing trainer. If you want to do something in tech, talk to someone who's a tech expert. If you want to do something in real estate, talk to a real estate expert. Talk to someone who has walked that road before. So when you find yourself in a situation where you are experiencing lack of progress, there are times that you need to reevaluate your approach. Maybe you are doing it wrongly. Maybe you are running on the wrong road. Maybe there's one little thing that you need to tweak. Maybe there's something that you need to just adjust. But all these kind of things, they will remain blind spots to you until you consult with mentors, those that have gone that road before. That can tell you that that road you are going, you just continue to walk, but you won't get results. So that is why you also need to do things beyond yourself. If you go back to the session where I talked about capacities, I talked about it. You need coaches, you need mentors, you need support systems around you that can guide you, that can tell you that this is the way, work in it. No, this place, don't go there, do this, do this. This is how to get things done. So it is not all the time that lack of progress just simply means lack of progress for lack of progress sake. It might seemingly look like lack of progress, but it might just be a method that needs to be tweaked. That is why everything that you do, you need to always evaluate. You need to always run analytics. You need to always measure the metrics. What exactly is happening here? What is causing what? You need to always consult every now and then to get superior information. Nobody is an island of knowledge. Always ask questions. It is very, very important. I mentioned it in the group a couple of days ago that you can get so much more from me, even in the WhatsApp groups, by the quality of questions that you ask, than from a 1 hour, 2 hour session that I deliver live. Because it is just like I mentioned, unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly. But it is according to how much you draw. It is according to how much you draw. How much are you consulting from the bigger source? Many of us just want to be 100% of a small thing rather than being a small part of a bigger thing. You need to tap on infinite resources, infinite intelligence. There's a book by the famous Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. There's one of the topics there, you talk about superior intelligence, infinite intelligence, I beg your pardon. How to connect with people that have even broader minds than you. All right? Let's move forward because I think we've done 1 hour already. So let's start bringing it to a close. Now, another trigger, which is the overwhelm, burnout. Many people are on this boat, and I've got the answers for you right now. If you, at any point, you are going through this journey and you get to that stage where it begins to impact you, health wise, physically, mentally, emotionally, in any area of your life, what you need to do is to pull the brakes. All right? You need to practice self acceptance. self acceptance. You need to take care of yourself. You need to focus on it because I've been saying it from the get go. The name of this challenge is the new me in 100 days. It is not about the new goal or the Lamborghini or the big house or the mega box. That's not what the challenge is about. It's about the new you. Because if you achieve those goals and you suffer a setback or you achieve those goals to your detriment, you won't be there to achieve to enjoy those goals. So the focus is on you. When you find yourself hitting a ceiling in any area of your life, physically, emotionally, or whatever it is, take time to get some rest. Take time to reset your energy. Take time to recharge. Take time to refresh. Take time to rebuild yourself. And that's the way, if you ask even those that do physical training, they tell you the same thing. You're not supposed to work out every day of the week. It is completely counterproductive because you're not giving your body time to grow new body tissue and muscular tissues or to refresh or to repair damaged tissues. And before you know what's happening, you will break down and it will become counterproductive. You work a bit, you grow a bit. 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 Everybody must learn to tune inside, to understand themselves, to understand their capacity, to understand what they are building. Because you didn't start out as a capacity of 5. For instance, if you started out as a capacity of 1, you need to push yourself, and grow until you become a capacity of 2. When you become a capacity of 2, you relax, you build yourself until you're comfortable with 2 before you begin to launch to expand capacity to become a capacity of 3. When you get to capacity of 3, you relax a bit, recharge, build yourself properly before you begin to aim towards being a capacity of 4. But you can't just move from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. It ain't gonna happen. Everything is in stages, line upon line, brick upon brick, precepts upon precepts. The focus should be on you and understand when your body is talking to you. Whenever you need to recharge, recharge. Whenever you need to rest, rest. But keep your eyes on the prize. I hope someone is getting something tonight. All right, let me just know in the comment section if you're getting something tonight. Okay, we're almost done. Then another one I want to talk about is okay, lack of support. Let me talk about lack of support for a bit. I mean, it's as self-explanatory as it can be. When talking about lack of support, that means you are not opening your eyes to the support systems that are around you. This group itself of hundreds of people, over 100 people, is a support system in itself. You don't need to wait until someone starts a conversation. Reach out. Like they say, a closed mouth is a closed destiny. Reach out. Work amongst yourselves. Collaborate. And it doesn't even have to be this group. Find support systems. I'm sure most of you that are in these groups, if you check your phone, you have nothing less than 10 WhatsApp groups that you belong to. In fact, I'm exaggerating. You might even have 20 WhatsApp groups. You belong to one group or the other. Some of them are gender-based, some of them are faith-based, some of them are business-based, some of them are investment-based. We all belong to one group or the other. Leverage the power of support systems. Nobody does it alone. There's nothing called self-made success. I've said it a billion times. So whenever you feel like there's some lack of support, look around you. There's support everywhere. All right? Let's talk about fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety. The answer to that is very simple. It's about perspective. You need to reframe fear. There's something I used to tell someone about fear. I said, do you know that the fear of something is worse than that thing itself? For instance, the fear of falling down creates a higher emotional trauma than falling down. Because when you actually fall down, you realize that you have no fear anymore. But the fear of falling can haunt you for years. So it's about whenever you find yourself, I don't know how many of us have any issue with fear. It could be fear of the future, it could be fear of failure, it could be fear of the unknown, it could be fear of resistance, it could be fear of rejection, fear of name all your fears. Whatever fears you have, you want to put it in this comment section, feel free to do so. But what I want to advise you in the concept of fear is to reframe your fears. Moderator, I want you to put that down. Reframe your fears. You need to change the way you look at fear and say to yourself, this thing that is scaring me will do me even more harm than the consequence itself. For instance, the fear of rejection. Ah, I don't want to apply for this thing because I'm scared that I might not get it. Right now, where you are, you're not getting it. So what difference does it make if you apply or not? But it makes a lot of difference if you actually apply because you might get it. That is the way to reframe fear. I want you to take the power that fear has and take it away from it. If you can, let's say this thing is fear. The power that fear has on you, take the power and take it away from it. You will realize that the fear becomes powerless. Because when you take the power away from fear, you realize that the thing that the fear has been tormenting you with is actually nothing. It's tormenting you with an illusion. Like they say, false appearance or false evidence appearing real. Is that not what they call it? Fear brings you nothing but torment. Never find yourself in a situation where you are tormented by fear. Reframe your fears. Never find yourself in a situation whereby you are tormented by fear of anything. Whether it's fear of failure. Look at it. There was a time you didn't even do the thing before. So why should you be fear of failure? The only reason why it should be fear, should be scared of failure is if you've been doing the thing all your life and it has been overwhelming success back to back. Then you might say maybe you want to fear failure. But something that you've not even succeeded in before, you are trying it for the first time and you're being scared of failing. I don't understand. He that is down needs to fear no fall. You're already at the place of no. So why are you scared of no? Reframe your fears. Guys, I want you to write it down, not just the moderator. Reframe your fears. Anything that is a fear factor for you, begin to reframe them beginning from tonight. All right? Reframe your fears. Now let's move on to the last one, which is distraction. I know majority of us are on this boat, distraction. Now let me explain distraction for you to you in a way that will blow your mind. Do you know that distraction is actually, if you look at it, two words, DIS, dis, and traction. What is traction? Traction is progress, movement, right? You are making traction, you are moving in strides. Just like when you talk about a tractor, tractor is that agricultural machine that pushes things forward. So traction is progress, movement. So anything that gets in the way of moving forward is called a distraction. Hope somebody caught that. Once you understand what distraction is, that distraction is something that gets in the way of you moving forward. It's like you want to move and the thing is tying a rope around you and pulling you back. You want to move forward and the thing is pulling you back. That thing is distraction. Now begin to ask yourself, what are the distractions in my life? And how do I deal with them? The way to deal with them is very simple. Is to decide where you want to put your focus. Everybody has the gift of focus. And I'm going to ask you to write something down now. Moderator, just write down that whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you focus on expands. This rule will change your life forever. I guarantee you. When you find yourself in a situation where you are dealing with distraction, a distraction problem, just choose, ask yourself, what is that thing that I want to expand, and give it your 100% focus. You can choose to say, you know what, I want to expand on all the problems of this country: inflation, economic hardship, bad roads, poor power, no power, unreliable internet. You know that if you're looking for the problems of this country, you find it. If you ask you to list out all the problems of this country, you can go for 1 hour non-stop, because your mind is designed to respond to your instructions. It begins to give you what you call confirmation bias. It begins to give you filter. It begins to help you to stretch it. Whatever you focus on expands. That is the way life works. Someone is laughing. You, it is a phenomenon of life. For instance, if you're going into a relationship, or if you're in a relationship with your husband, your wife, or whatever, if they say, what are the good things about this guy? Or what are the good things about this lady? The moment you put your focus on it, you begin to build a list. True or false? If they say, what are the bad things about this lady? Or what are the bad things about this guy? The moment you put your focus on it, you build a list. Whatever you focus on expands. So if you want to fight distraction in your life, the best way to fight distraction is not to focus on distraction. Kai! I hope someone got that. The best way to fight distraction is not to focus on distraction. The best way to fight distraction is to do the exact opposite. Find something to give focus. Let it expand. You've got bills, you've got a boss, you've got a husband, you've got a wife, you've got children, you've got uh, pressure from your worship center, your local assembly demands. You've got your club that you belong to. Everybody, like, I keep saying, everybody wants a slice of your life like a pizza. But the best way to deal with it is to say, what, you know what, I will focus on me. Let me expand. If I am a bigger pizza, people can have a fairer share of the slice. But if my pizza is, is just this size, someone can just take the whole thing away. I hope you guys are understanding my illustration tonight. Whatever you focus on, expand. So I am asking you to focus on you. For some of us, we are dealing with issues in our homes. It could be a dysfunctional home, it could be issues, challenges, whatever. Focus on you. If you focus on your spouse, my spouse is the problem, this is the problem with my spouse, my spouse, whatever you focus on expands. But if you focus on you, you will expand. Am I making sense? It applies to every area of your life. Finances, the same thing. What do you want to focus on? You want to focus on an empty wallet, or do you want to focus on a sales target in view? Whatever you focus on expands. Do you want to focus on the headache? I'm not saying it's not there, but do you want to focus on the headache, or you want to focus on self-love, self-care, peace, love, joy, inner peace, nimbleness of mind, mental permission? What you focus on expands. So I want you to write it down. Whatever you focus on expands. And take it upon yourself the challenge to focus on you. When you focus on what you want, by the time you put so much energy and focus into that thing, you realize that everything else just becomes so non-existent. It's the same psychological feeling that follows confirmation bias. When you say, "Oh, I want to buy a car," and the moment you decide on the kind of car you want to buy, what filters every other car from the road is focus. Whatever you focus on expands because your mind is set on a Range Rover. It now looks as if, oh, can you imagine? Lagos has changed, though. Everywhere is filled with Range Rover. Wow. No, come on. There are Danfos and Okadas too. It's just that your mind filtered them from your subconscious. Whatever you focus on, expand. And I hope with all these points that I've been able to make tonight, you can begin to detect any of the discouragement triggers in your life and not just detecting them, deciding how you want to deal with them. Because you start second half tomorrow. So this is more like a locker room talk for us tonight. As you start second half tomorrow, know that discouragement is inevitable. Stress is inevitable. Headache is inevitable. Fatigue is inevitable. All those baggage is inevitable. On the other side, success is inevitable. Growth is inevitable. Mental permission is inevitable. The new you is inevitable. The better version of you is inevitable. New opportunities, new networks, new people, new personality, new competence levels from level 0 to level 4, new capacity scaling, new networks. Whatever you focus on, expand. So I ask you once again, do you want to quit or do you want to win? Whatever you focus on will expand. Now, all the things that I've mentioned tonight, as much as it seems as if I'm rushing, they might not be as straightforward as they seem. In some areas of your life, depending on who you are or the peculiarities of your challenge, you might need to invest in a coach outside this challenge. It's not everything that is free, 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 free. There are times that you might need to invest in a coach one-on-one to say, you know what, you see this peculiar area of my life, I want to deal with it. The code doesn't have to be me. Hmm? I'm not selling markets, but I'm just telling you the truth that there are times that you need to just go out of yourself. It's not everything that you continue to raise your hand and beg for handouts. Everything, give me, give me, give me, give me. No, there are times you need to pay for access. And above all, I want you, and I can't stress this enough, every session in this playlist, every session that has been delivered in this challenge, please go back and watch them. I can guarantee you, if you watch any of this session again and you don't learn anything new, don't watch any of the videos anymore. The reason why I'm saying this is that even me, all these things that I'm talking and I'm freestyling as I'm saying them and all that, I'm saying them as they come. I find out that when I go back to watch the videos, I marvel because I'm like, did I say that? Eh, oh wow. And I begin to take notes. Because you just never know what comes out when I'm speaking spontaneously. Go back and watch these videos. So as we wrap up for tonight, I want you to go back to the WhatsApp group as always and simply type, I am encouraged. And this is if you believe so. You can type it out here before we close for tonight and go to the WhatsApp group and just type, I am encouraged. Go back, watch this video as much as you can, and look for the area that speaks to the peculiar challenge that it is for you and begin to apply the requisite solutions and just say to yourself, I am encouraged. I am encouraged. On that note, I want to say congratulations once again. You guys are the marvelous people that have made it to halftime and you are ready to crush your goals. You are ready to unfold the new version of yourselves. even as you begin the next version of yourself in the second half. Get back to the WhatsApp group and encourage those that didn't make it to the live session to get back here, because many people are going through one thing or the other. This might be the solution. This might be that deliverance session, like I said. It could be the healing that someone has been looking for. And I believe someone has really indeed been encouraged tonight. So on that note, I want to say thank you very much for being part of tonight's session. And I'm looking forward to you having yourself a fantastic week ahead, right? Get back in the WhatsApp group and say, I am encouraged. All right? Have a lovely one. Welcome to the second half. Peace.